I'm Edwin Warfield, the publisher of City Biz, and I'm honored today to interview Max Spiegel, the president of Certified Collectibles Group. Welcome, Max.
Thank you so much for having me.
Can you provide an introduction to the Certified Collections Group, including the companies associated and locations, employees? Just give us a basic introduction to the company.
Yeah, the Certified Collectibles Group is one of the world's largest authentication and grading services of collectibles. So if you have a coin, a banknote, a comic book, a magazine, a sports card, a Pokemon card, even a video game or a home video, if you want to know that it's genuine and if you want to know what the condition of it is, you would send it to us and we would tell you what it is and we'd put it in a holder so that everybody that you want to sell it to ultimately knows what it is. And I have a few of those holders behind us. And it's a large business. People are shocked to hear that we have over 750 employees. We're headquartered in Sarasota, Florida. We probably have about 625 employees here. And we've got offices in New Jersey, London, Munich, Shanghai, Hong Kong. And we just opened up one in Dubai earlier last year.
So, what are the areas of expertise? Coins, pop culture, collectibles? What is the range of everything that you can certify?
Yeah, so we have the broadest coverage, I'd say, of any certification service, and there aren't a lot of companies that do what we do. We started with coins in 1987. We expanded to comics in the year 2000. We then did banknotes. We then did stamps, actually. We did Pokemon cards, Magic cards. We call those TCGs, trading card games. We did sports cards. And then, believe it or not, I mean, we got into video game grading. We got into VHS certification. So there's a lot of different categories. And what's cool about collectibles is that there's always new things becoming collected. So at some point in the future, I'm sure we'll be certifying toys. Whether it's Funko Pops or Pop Mart has become very popular. Matchbox cars, vinyl records are widely collected. So I would say anything that's being collected is a potential category for us in the future.
So, what are some of the most notable record prices achieved by NGC or CCG certified collectibles? And what do those results tell us about the market conditions?
Yeah, well, look, so just Certified Collectibles Group, we really operate under several different brands. So like you mentioned, NGC, so that's our coin grading service. PMG is our paper money grading service. CGC does comic books and the other pop culture like cards. JSA, we actually do autograph authentication. And then we have our stamp company, ASG. And, CGC has really been getting some impressive prices realized lately. There was a comic book, an Action Comics #1. So that's the first appearance of Superman in a comic book. One of the examples with the highest grade of 9.0, it just sold for $15 million. So, I mean, to think about a comic book selling for $15 million, I mean, that was just an incredible start to the year. And that broke the record that was just set back in November for a different Superman comic book, a Superman #1 that sold for over $9 million. So I think those kind of prices are just a testament to the strength of the collectibles market. And, I call it a market because when I got into this, it was more of a hobby, but people are looking at this as an investment now. I mean, you're not spending $9 million or $15 million on a comic, just because you're thinking of it as a collectible. You are thinking about this as an alternative asset class.
So, having grown up in Baltimore, I'm keenly aware of Stephen Jeppy and his influence in the comic book industry, which we're not going to digress in that. But yeah, he's that's a fascinating story that we can share at another day. But what are some of the factors influencing value in today's collectible market? Rarity, condition, cultural relevance. Yeah, what's really driving interest?
Yeah, look, you're hitting on all of it. I would say cultural relevance and the subject matter is super important. And so, you'll see collectibles like sports cards are setting record prices, Pokemon cards, which really resonate with people who are, maybe nostalgic for when Pokemon first came out in the late 90s. Now they've got a little bit of money and now they're spending some serious money on Pokemon cards, coins with different subject matter. So it's the subject matter, it's the rarity, it is the condition. People want the best of the best and they're willing to pay a strong premium for it. And what's great about our company is we really tell you what you have. So if you didn't get it authenticated and graded by a third party like us, you'd have no idea what the condition of it is. You couldn't trust the seller, obviously. Like, they're going to tell you it's great because they're trying to sell it to you. So we're fully independent. We give people a lot of confidence in it, and it lets them really understand what they have or what they're buying.
And so, looking ahead to 2026, How do you expect the collectibles market to evolve in terms of demand, demographics, and asset classes?
I'd say we're off to a really good start in 2026 with that Action Comics #1 sort of setting the tone at $15 million. But this is a pretty important year for collectibles. It's the 30th anniversary of Pokemon cards, so they're going to come out with a lot of really, really exciting cards. It's the 250th anniversary of the United States, 250 years since the Declaration of Independence. So the US Mint's coming out with a lot of really interesting coins. And the great thing about these milestones and these anniversaries is they bring a lot of new people into these markets because people are seeing this new stuff come out for the first time. And look, the other thing too, with silver at astronomical levels, $110 an ounce, gold just topping $5,000 an ounce, that is bringing unprecedented numbers of people into our markets who are for the first time saying, you know what, I should be looking at a gold coin or a silver coin for my, not just my collection, but as an investment.
So, are you seeing changes in who's collecting, such as younger buyers, international participants, institutional interest? Yeah, where's the buyer makeup coming from these days?
Yeah, I would say it's pretty broad based. Comics always had a younger demographic. Cards has a pretty diverse demographic. But coins, look, coins traditionally had a much older demographic, especially in the US. I would go to coin shows. I'd be by far the youngest person at a show. That is totally changed nowadays. When I go to a coin show, I'm shocked by the number of, people in their early 20s who are running around, flipping coins from one dealer to another. And I think, with social media and the rise of like live stream shopping, Whatnot and TikTok shop, you're getting a lot of young people who have become very entrepreneurial and have found that they could do this, first as a side hustle, maybe to get them through college, but then as a profession. So yeah, the demographics have become incredibly diverse. They're very diverse internationally. And in terms of institutional investment, like, look, I mean, we got acquired by Blackstone. So you have the world's largest private equity firm. They believe in collectibles. Our competitor has significant backers too. 10 years ago, I never would have expected where we are today. But today it's, we've really grown up into a real serious business. But I think, we're probably still only in the third inning.
And so, what are the services provided by CCG?
So we're really focused on just doing one thing and doing it as best as possible. So that's what we call certification. So we tell you if it's genuine, we tell you what the condition or the grade of it is, and then we encapsulate it in a tamper evident holder. We do not buy or sell any collectibles. We think that would be a conflict of interest if we were buying and selling them and also telling you what they are. So we focus on that one thing. And last year alone, 15 million collectibles were sent to us for those certification services. So we're plenty busy just operating in that one area of the market. And yeah, we think that's sort of the key to our success is just double down on doing certification the best possible way.
So, the Certified Collectibles Group website mentions some of the patents you hold. What do some of those patents cover?
The biggest thing would be our holders. Whenever we're developing a new holder, we're developing it, first and foremost for the preservation of the collectible. It also needs to be tamper evident. We don't want people to be able to open it and mess around with the label that we've put in there describing the collectible. And it needs to have good eye appeal. Like ultimately, like people do display these on shelves and they show off their collection. It is like a piece of art to them. So when we hit on something that we think is really innovative, we'll obviously obtain patent protection for that. For our brands, we're focused more on the trademark protection. But we're in a position where a lot of people do want to copy our services to defraud people. And so we're very, very diligent about protecting our intellectual property.
And so, yeah, how do you deal with fraud and fakes? I mean, it's always been a huge challenge in the art world. How do you deal with it?
Well, we exist to protect people from those fakes. So when people send them to us, we have top experts. I mean, we have literally hundreds of experts on staff, multiple people looking at every item to determine that it's authentic, and then assigning a grade to it on a standard, globally accepted scale. Having multiple people, a proven process, advanced technology, that all helps to make sure that we're doing our job correctly. But look, we're human, and once in a while we do make a mistake. And in that case, we actually have a financial guarantee on everything that we do. So if we do certify a counterfeit coin, somebody could bring that back to us and they would get a financial remedy for us, basically acting almost as insurance that they have what we said it was.
That's interesting. And is provenance part of that? I mean, in the auction houses the world that I come from, is provenance an important part of what you do or not?
That's a really interesting question. For the most part, provenance is not that important for us. The collectible has to stand on its own. We have to be able to assess and we have to be able to confirm that by itself, we know this is a genuine collectible. The challenge that we found is you'll get people who will say, yeah, this has been in my, this was in my great grandfather's collection, but can you trust that it was in their great grandfather's collection? And you'll get people manipulating the provenance paperwork. So you never really look. It's always helpful to get that information, but if that's the only thing that it has going for it, you can't rely on that alone.
So let's talk about 2021 Blackstone Tactical Opportunities acquired Certified Collectibles Group. Tell us about that transaction and its impact on the company.
It was a huge event for us. We've always been a large and fast growing business, but Blackstone really added significant firepower to the company. I mean, in terms of giving us a very strong balance sheet, in terms of helping us to professionalize our organization. I mean, adding in, deep financial expertise, forecasting abilities, technology expertise. They really, helped us to grow up as a company. And so we kind of have the same ethos that we've always had, but now we just have this additional resources that we never otherwise would have had. And they have a lot of smart people on their team too. So while we continue to manage the business of the business, once a quarter we'll get together as a board and we'll talk about strategy. And I think, what's important is it's not only been good for the business itself. I think in our services, I think collectors would tell you we're faster than we've ever been before. I can tell you, I see our quality control metrics. Our quality control metrics are better than before. We have more people than we've ever had before. So it's not like one of those horror stories where, they try to cut expenses. It's actually been just the opposite. We've invested tremendous amounts in the business, and I think it's the strongest the business has ever been. And I think we'll only get stronger as collectibles become a bigger and bigger part of people's lives.
And so, where do you see the growth opportunities for CCG?
Well, the traditional ways that we've grown is by expanding internationally. So I think there's still a lot of the map that we don't cover. I'm excited about Japan. I'm excited about Canada. I think India has huge long-term potential. We expand into other categories. I mentioned toys or vinyl records. There's manga comics that we're not currently doing. So I think there's a lot of expansion opportunities. But in the short term, look, I think with the way the coin market is right now, the way the card market is, we've kind of just got to focus on keeping up and being efficient and giving people fast turnaround times for their submissions. So for the near term, it's focused on those two categories and providing the best possible service and reaching more people. But longer term, I think you'll see us expand into other categories in other countries.
And so, tell me a little about the relationship with the auction houses. For example, obviously Heritage is well known for coins. How do you play any role in that decision? If someone says, "Hey, you've appraised an item," do you play any recommendation role in terms of the auction houses?
We provide, I would say, an integral service for those auction houses. So an auction house wants to get the maximum price realized for their collectible. And in order to do that, you need to be able to give buyers confidence in how you're describing the collectible. So before anything gets sold by an auction house, they'll have it certified by us. And so it'll be in our holder, and then they'll be able to say, yes, NGC guarantees that this coin is a 65 and they guarantee that it's authentic. And that lets all their buyers be confident when they're bidding on that auction. So I think our services essentially enable commerce, and they definitely enable online transactions, because otherwise you'd never be able to know what it is. You'd just be looking at somebody's picture of the item. You couldn't see it in person. So we kind of grease the skids of commerce, but we're not really playing the role of recommending auction houses or giving people valuations. Again, we stay in our lane and we want to make sure we have no conflicts of interest. But yeah, we work very closely with probably every collectibles auction house.
So, Max, is there any part of your personal journey or the journey of Certified Collectibles Group that you'd like to share with us that you haven't shared with us?
Well, look, this for me was a dream job. I could tell you. After graduating college, I was a collector. I've been a collector, since I was probably 4, 5, 6 years old, primarily of coins. And I was looking at different collectible companies. I knew that's what I wanted to do. And when I came to CCG, I mean, the level of sophistication that the company already had, and we're talking 15, 16 years ago, was extremely impressive to me. Like it did not feel like what you'd expect a coin shop to look like. It was a real business back then. And then back then we only had 125 employees. And like I said, we now have 750. So it's been amazing to be a part of this growth trajectory and to be able to be around collectibles and then go home and, shop eBay for my own collection. And I'm excited to see where collectibles continues to grow and evolve going forward. And obviously this company too.
So, Max, I want to thank you for your time today. It was a fascinating interview. I think I mentioned prior to this, I did the Sotheby's course in London before you were born back in 1977. And my girlfriend's an appraiser who worked at Phillips and Christie's. So, and my son was in the watch business for a while. So, I look forward to sharing this interview with the City Biz audience and keep us apprised as you move forward. It's a fascinating story, and I think you guys are obviously well positioned to capitalize on the opportunities internationally and within all these new categories that come on board. Thank you for your time.
Yeah, appreciate it.